You can call me Tito HR.
Kuya HR.
We've been talking about myths, misconceptions, weird policies.
Recently, there was a change in how the law views job offers. Now, the official position is
The company has a very strong social media policy. You post one negative thing about the brand, tanggal ka agad.
anything that makes the relationship vague, you should definitely clarify immediately.
Need to do something about this employee. We have only 3 hours to do with it.
That is a very risky thing to do. Your HR manual is essentially your employee's lifeline.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Jack,
I'm Arvin.
and we are HR consultants with Can Do Solutions, which is a business unit under management strategies. We make sure it's HR consulting powered by culture. And today, you can call me Tito HR.
Kuya HR.
Let's get into our topic for today. We've been talking about myths, misconceptions, weird policies, right things, wrong things. Let's keep it simple. I'm a business owner. I'm opening a business. From an HR point of view, what do I need to do and do not and meet in the middle somehow,
That's true.
somewhere? Now, I know that people think they need to sign a contract to be officially hired by a company.
Yes.
But
Recently, there was a change in how the law views job offers. So now, the official position is assigned job offer can already constitute an employer-employee relationship.
wait, Kuya HR. What's a job offer?
A job offer is essentially a document that details what position and what compensation and benefits you're offering a possible new hire to your company.
So, would a job offer be a simple, let's say, opening for HR manager? Nag-apply ka, interview, eche boreche, whatever. And I say, okay, you're hired. If I just send you an email saying, Arvin, you're hired.
No. It has to be an official document that has the signatory of a company representative, and it should have space for your own signature on it.
Okay. So me just sending the job offer to you is not enough. Pag
Yes.
pinirma mo at binik mo sa akin, as far as we're concerned, from that point, hired ka na. Empleyado ka na.
Because there's an acknowledgement and an agreement to the job offer.
Okay. And then the contract is just a safety measure or something else.
The contract is a document where you can further expound on the necessary requirements you're expecting of this person, or where you can fully essentially explain yung suite of compensation.
So yung job offer is, Arvin, congratulations for making a job offer for HR manager. Salary is whatever pesos. Your start date is this date. That means at that point, hired ka na.
Yes.
Pero pag nung day one mo, pagpasok mo, your contract can then say things like, here are your jobs, your roles and responsibilities. Here's how we'll measure your performance, and so on and so forth.
So on and so forth.
Okay. Because ideally, and this is something you should do, you need to have those clear metrics, roles, responsibilities, day one pa lang.
Correct. Why is it important? When we're talking about probationary employment and the eventual movement from probationary to regularization, there is supposed to be a performance check. It should happen at least in the 3rd month and then the 5th month again for confirmation.
Although pwedeng 2 and 4 or... But,
Depending on the combination, but it should happen within the 6-month period, the very least. Performance evaluation can only happen if the expectations and scope of their work is clearly stated. Why is it important that it's clearly stated? Because then the employee has an understanding on what they are being measured against. This is also very important when it comes to due process for, well, sadly, for possible termination. Because if you are unclear at the start of what your expectations are for these people, and then you decide to terminate them without an explanation, they can then counter-argue that they measured me against things that I was not made aware of.
Exactly. That's why make sure you do that. Do not skip that very important step of having clear expectations, doing at least one check-in before proceeding to regularization. And we need to remember and remind everyone, we talked about in an earlier podcast, regularization happens pagpatak ng 6th month mo. Whether may notification, whether may congratulatory, whatever, the moment you hit 6th month, automatic regular ka na.
Yes, and this is because of how our labor code views that process.
So funny story, I was working in an industry where it was night shift. So we had weird encounters where pag night shift, 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., pagpatak ng 12 midnight, yun yung 6 months nila. So automatic naging regular. So we had these weird instances where, oh no, we need to do something about this employee. We have only 3 hours to do it in. Otherwise, papatak ng 12 midnight, wala na. So it's not about shift schedules. We follow Philippine time. So in that context, papatak ng 12:01 midnight or 12:01 a.m., automatic, regular na siya. So, you have your employee. You have your contract. You have clear eche boreche. It's also important to make sure that you do onboard them properly. Do not assume that they know everything they need to know day one pa lang. It should be your obligation to make sure they're notified about things they need to know, processes, procedures, because it will be unreasonable to say, oh, this employee is not following proper time and procedure. They're not following proper operational procedures or whatnot, pero they were never explained to the person in the first place.
Correct. Communication actually is very critical for any organization. Even more so when we're talking about new hires coming in because they have no idea how the company is run. They will initially have no clear idea as to what are the things expected of them. So onboarding is very important to set those foundations. Let's say you expect them to act a certain way,
Right.
but you never verbalized it. It is unreasonable for you to assume that they can read your mind.
So for example, if your company has a certain set of values, certain behaviors, expectations na we expect everyone to practice, everyone to follow, dapat clear pa yan. Clear yan sa empleyado, day one pa lang.
Yes.
And then you can't suddenly say, hindi ka magandang culture fit, you're not a good fit for the company, hindi ka bagay dito, you never man lang sinabi sa employee in the first place.
Correct. So all these, well, again, we mentioned this also in an earlier podcast, no? Like anything that makes the relationship vague, you should definitely clarify immediately.
And kasama dyan, sa onboarding process, whatever your company's policies, procedures, values, whatnot, all of that, your code of conduct, all of that can just be dumped into your HR manual or your employee handbook.
Yes.
So that can be a very useful tool to help onboard new hires. You actually go through the handbook with them to make sure they understand all their benefits, especially if your company has benefits na over and above what are standard.
Correct.
Para alam nila kung paano, they know how to make the most of them. So in fact, everything can be simplified just into that one manual, your employee handbook.
The employee handbook also represents the employee's acknowledgement and agreement to be governed by the rules, policies ng company na sinasalihan nila. So, say like for example, the labor code governs all businesses, employers, employees by default. That's why it's always good for you to have a handle on the latest advisories, issuances, changes in their guidelines.
And make sure your handbook is up to spec with current DOLE or labor code requirement.
Yes. Besides that, the code of conduct, your HR manual, is essentially your employee's lifeline within the company. So they can also use that to defend themselves if something unfair is happening.
In fact, I remember Another common challenge we encounter some of the companies we work with is we ask them, meron ba kayong HR manual, employee manual? And they're like, yeah, meron kami. Kaso 2012 pa. So we're like, okay, a lot of things have happened since 2012. So kailangan i-update yung policies na yun.
Correct.
Very, very, very important. I'm glad you talked about my awareness of the employees on what their rights are. They're aware of what the employer's rights are and so on. Eh, what if, for example, may mga employee na wala, they don't want to accept it, or they resist, or they have objections to certain parts of the handbook?
This is where the labor code comes in. Even if an employee does not agree slash acknowledge the company manual because they have their own disagreements, they still are under the labor code. And under the labor code, there are certain rights afforded to the employer
Yep.
to manage their company the way they see fit, as long as it is within reasonable bounds of the law. So for example, that employee for some reason does really just not doesn't want to sign off on the handbook. It's been 2-3 weeks of the company just asking that new hire, please sign, please sign, please sign. Under the labor code, employer can go, this person is refusing a just and reasonable request from the company to comply with the requirement. So, because of that, we will have to move to file a case of insubordination.
But I'm glad you mentioned just and reasonable. So company policies cannot supersede what's in the labor code. So for example, I can't put in my manual, bawal mag-file ng overtime. And then if an employee says, no, I'm sorry, I'm not signing because that's against my rights, that's against the labor code, valid yung
Valid yung complaint.
valid.
Yes. And that can be raised.
Because in fact, if you don't pay overtime, that is a potentially big problem.
Yes, that is a very risky thing to do.
Let's say the company has a very strong social media policy. Things like, because of the nature of our work, we're very brand heavy and brand conscious. You should not post anything on your social media about that impacts negatively our brand. Let's say the two soda giants, you work for one and you start posting on social media, oh, this one doesn't taste as good as the other. That's a reasonable social media policy. If the employee says, no, I don't think that's fair because, freedom of expression and whatnot, the company is within their rights to say, well, we need to protect our brand as well.
Well, the connect to the employee is, we understand that it is your freedom of expression to post this on your personal page, but please also understand now, because of what you agreed to in the company policies, you're actually in violation of this request.
But again, dapat just and reasonable. Hindi pwedeng, for example, you post one negative thing about the brand, tanggal ka agad. I mean, there has to be a due and reasonable process for things like that. And that's why it's also important to point out these things in your handbook. Because we have encountered some clients who are very social media conscious because of the nature of their work or their industry. And there are some clients na, I really don't care what you put on your social media.
Because it doesn't necessarily impact our company.
So just like social media policies, as long as they are just and reasonable, it's okay for a company to have these kinds of elements in there. But again, it's also very important that you make sure you communicate these things clearly and properly to your employees to minimize the drama, the miscommunication, or potential issues you might face further down the road.
The way employer-employee relationships work is essentially through the respect of agency. When an employee agrees to something, it is assumed that they did their due diligence to understand all the implications of what is being offered to them and what they're agreeing to.
Yep.
Similarly, the employer, upon their review of what is supposed to be given to their employees, they're agreeing to all of that as well.
Yep.
So, yun yung agency nung dalawa that has to be respected. Because, for example, in an earlier episode, we talked about constructive dismissal. That's a form of coercion kasi.
Yep.
So you're removing the agency from the individual to continue working for you because you're forcing them out.
And even, in fact, this whole probationary period thing, companies have the right to actually waive the whole probationary period.
Correct.
They have the right to say, upon hire, you enjoy all benefits that are due to regular employees, leaves, HMO, whatever the case may be.
That falls under, well, this is the usual blanket term, management prerogative.
Yes. And again, it boils down also to companies can give more than what's in the labor code. You cannot give less. Okay? So do not give less than what's in the labor code. But you can do,
Can do and give more.
yes. Okay?
More.
More. Because more is always, no, yun naman. More is sometimes better.
More is
More is sometimes better. It's not always better. So we've kind of covered the basics, maybe the fundamental stuff. So make sure, you're clear about what your structure should be, what kind of benefits you want to offer, the kind of people you need in your organization. Once you define that, how do you find the right talent? We can talk about that separately. Let's say you found the right talent. You need to make sure you onboard them properly. So make sure you introduce them to your company policies, your values, your culture. Because remember, culture drives culture drives performance, essentially. That's why it's about HR consulting powered by culture. So you've got your people on board, you've oriented them. You make sure if you do have a probationary period, you at least do one check-in. But if you don't do it, automatic 6 months, they are regular. You can even opt to not have a probationary period at all and make them regular upon hire. That's perfectly up to you. So again, basic guideline, you cannot give less than the labor code. You can give more than the labor code as long as it's not in conflict or contradiction to what's listed there. And of course, part of that is also making sure everything is documented. The contracts, understanding of the handbook and everything. And if ever there is resistance from employees, we need to look at the lens of where is the resistance coming from. If it's resistance against something that is unjust and reasonable, actually buti na nga na nag-raise sila ng concern rather than going through a legal route, you should take the steps to correct it and amend it. If the employee is the one being unreasonable, meaning you've made the effort to make a fair and just handbook, policies, and systems, ayaw lang nila for whatever reason, then there are remedies that you can do to help, to help address the situation. And if things get too far, again, there are steps you can do to help address that. And at that point, ideally, in a perfect world, you've got your happy, productive, and engaged employees. So we'd love to hear from you right now. What are examples of maybe policies that you've encountered that you found very interesting, that have been very helpful? Or if you're a business owner, policies you've tried that are over and above what's in the labor code that you found your employees to really enjoy. Flexible work arrangements, whatever the case may be, work from home, or interesting benefits. We'd love to hear from you. So please comment down below in the comment section. Make sure to like and subscribe. And in future podcasts, we'll talk about other interesting topics from HR. So again, I am Tito HR.
I am Kuya HR.
And we'll see you in our next podcast.
Bye. Hi, I'm Kuya HR.
Tito HR.
We need help. Your
Yes.
help specifically.
And the help we need is for you to put a name for our podcast. We have no name yet. So please comment below your suggestions, recommendations for possible names for our podcast. And if we choose one of you as the winning entry, we will give you a donut. A box of donuts.
A box of donuts, yes.
So please comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks, everyone. Bye.